Hey guys, just wanted to start a video series on rebuilding a cabinet from scratch basically. I do this quite a bit at work. If the loom's too badly damaged or someone's cut it up or it's just not going to be reliable, then I basically get rid of everything inside. A lot of step downs after many years become a fire hazard. So I get rid of them as well and just restart everything. So yes, I've got a few things I want to show. Normally I would start with doing the loom, but I already have a video on doing the loom mods that I do to the China made looms, so that's all good. So today I just wanted to cover the next option where I start is with the power supplies and power wiring, etc. Now, all of this is based on people who have 240 volt cabs. If you've got any 110 stuff, it'll be a little bit different. So I'm just doing this based on the cabinets that we here have in Australia, which are all 240 volts. So, where to start? Main thing is, obviously, you've got to get gear that you need to be able to do it. I'm using an arcade style power supply. I've talked about these in my power supply video. So I've got one of those. I use just an IEC lead. As long as it has an Australian plug on it and a little bit of cable, it's fine. So you need one of those. Now this is a step down transformer. This is an actual isolated transformer. It's from JCar. You should technically use isolating step downs. There are some step downs that are a lot cheaper, but they're not isolated, and that can lead to problems. I've seen many people use them and not have any issues, but there can be issues, so it's better just to spend a little bit more and get the proper isolated step down transformer. So these are a JCar option. I'm sure there is plenty on eBay, etc. So it's an MF1082. So this is the 250 watt model. There is a 500 watt model that you can get if you need a little bit more. If your chassis is going to take a little bit more current, you can get the 500 watt version. So that's all good. So I'll just take him out of his box. Now, fairly simple little guys. Power goes in one side, so 240 goes in, and then 110 comes out. So that's pretty simple little guy. It's got little handles so you can lift them up, so it makes him really easy. So that's him. So basically what happens is the input to your chassis will go on the 110 side, because all chassis are 110. Well, basically 99% of them are. Any ones that you can't encounter in Australia should be 110, so they will need the step down transformer from the 240 to the 110. So that's your first option. I just normally cut these little guys out, and then I use a zip tie when I've got the length of the lead right. Now, the power supply. I showed you the low voltage side, so the DC voltage side with your -5, +12, and +5. This time we're actually going to be doing the AC wiring, which I didn't get to show you. For the two terminals on the bottom here. So this is where we grab our IEC lead. You don't need a lot of cable. I usually make them a little bit longer than what I actually need them. That way it's all good, but that's probably enough. So just cut him off there. Don't need my anti-static strap at the moment, so we can go over there. Now, grab your scalpel out. Don't push too hard because you don't want to go too deep into the actual and cut all the wires. You just want to go on the outer so you can strip it back. So that's probably enough. So now I should be able to just split that, and the cores should come out like so. Just cut the excess off. That's that. So we've got some wires. Grab a cloth or something. Normally these have got chalk in them as a moisture barrier. So just pull that through a rag or something, get rid of it. Just makes it a little bit easier when you go to soldering it. So now that we've done that, we need to add fork terminals to it because it's going on the power supply. So these are red ones. That's all you need. So just grab your little pair of cutters. Strip off a little bit of the wire. So I'm going to do all of these first. And then we'll crimp the terminals on, and then we solder them, just to make sure that everything's all good. So yeah, so I've just stripped them off now, twisted them around so they're all ready to go. Grab your ratchet crimper or whatever crimp tool you have. The ratchet ones are really good. They give the same pressure every time, so they're very handy. Grab 3 terminals and just crimp these little guys on. Make sure the wire doesn't fall out the back, just like that did. There we go. That's one done. Two done. Three done. Cool. So that's all good. We don't need him anymore. We can put him away. So with the big cutters, they can go away. Alright. Now, grab your soldering iron and some solder, which is always handy. Now, what we want to do, we don't want to absolutely cover the whole thing in solder. We just want to melt the solder onto the copper wire and then let it flow into the connector. You don't need a lot of heat. This just gives you a really good connection, so there's not much resistance, and acts a bit more strain relief as well. So that's that one done. Just pop them through. Grab the next one. Same thing. Solder on the tip. Press it on the wire. Add a little bit more solder, and it should start to flow into the connector, which it does. Right, so that one's good. Just let it cool down for a second. Alright, got the next one. Same thing again, a little bit of solder on the tip. Onto the wire. And let it flow in. Go. Is that done? Now, to shrink, heat shrink, I just use one of these little guys. It's a barbecue lighter. It's refillable. It's made by Redheads. They actually make them in different colors now, which is a little bit groovy. So if you like to be a little bit colourful, I got pink for STI pink, which is to do with Subaru. So that's why I've got a pink one. But I think there's a green. There's all sorts of colours, but they work really well. And they're refillable, so that you can just keep doing more and more heat shrink / glue shrink as much as you'd like. Now, so all these little guys, just wait for them to cool down a little bit. Now we need some glue shrink. Just see which one I need. I think I need this one, the smaller one. Just make sure it fits over the terminal. As long as it fits over, yep, fits over the terminal, then it's going to be fine. So just grab a pair of cutters or scissors or whatever, and just cut off some pieces. There we go. We've got 3 pieces of glue shrink there. Now, check the glue shrink over. Just line it up. And then shrink it down. So you don't want to leave it for too long on the actual glue shrink, or it will actually melt it. Just enough so that it actually shrinks and the glue melts. So just like that, basically. So grab the next one. And do the same thing. Shrink that away. Come on. There we go. All three are done. Let them cool down for a second so you don't burn your fingers. Now, the most important part of the power wiring is obviously you need some form of distribution board. I use these power boards. You can get them from Bunnings, that's where I normally get it from. They've got a 1.8 meter lead on them. So that's the lead that you will eventually plug into the wall from your cabinet. So the other ones, I think they're about 0.9 of a meter or something, which is quite short out the back, but these are 1.8. You don't have to have individually switched ones. I just like to have it, but you can use anything. So it'll open up one of these little guys. They're made by HPM, but yeah, you can get them at Bunnings and you know, all sorts of places like that. So we'll just open him up. Get in the bin. Get rid of that. So this acts as your power distribution board, which makes things really, really easy. So that'll go to your wall. So that'll go out through the back of the machine to the wall. And then in here, you'll have one plug from the step down, and then you'll have the other plug, which will be this lead, to the power supply. So you only need to have two holes, two ports. You don't need any others, unless you want to run a 240 volt header in the banner instead of an LED. You could always grab another one, but you've got four, so you've got a lot to choose from. So that's the power board. Now to hold this guy in, just move my little lead there. To hold this guy in, I make a little bracket. This is make a bracket. You can get it from Bunnings. It's just basically a strip with little indentations, which you can easily bend. So I make up a little bracket, just one of those. It's one high. So go like that. Just measure it. Yep, it's this one. So that goes down. And one more. Bend there. Now you cut it. So just get some pair of cutters and just scribe a line and then give it a wobble back and forth. There we go, it breaks off. So there you go, you've got your little bracket to hold the power supply. I grabbed some, it's foam rubber with sticky on the back of it basically. So just cut out a little bit of that. It's not hugely thick, it's probably only about 4 or 5 mil thick. It doesn't have to be too thick. But having sticky on the back, that's where the advantage is. So just peel off the tape on the back, chuck that in the bin, and put it in your bracket. Like that. That way, when you actually screw the bracket down, it will actually grab onto the power board, like so. Like that. And then you put a screw there and a screw there, and then that'll hold that down. You can't pull it out anywhere. Works really, really well. So that's the power board. So fit the power board in your cab. You've got step down transformer plugged in. So he's all good. Like the chassis will go in there, but obviously there's no chassis on my bench at the moment. Now we need to wire up the power supply. Now, this is not very difficult at all. If you have a look at my other power supply video, you'll see I didn't actually do the 240 volt AC wiring, but in this demo I will. So basically you've got your blue and your brown, which are both AC. One is neutral, one is active. It doesn't matter which one you put on the AC pin, but as long as both have the supply pin and not an earth, so don't accidentally put an earth pin in there, because that will let out the smoke and we don't want to have that. So your two ACs are in, so that's your blue and your brown. Now your earth, or frame ground as it's also called, is obviously yellow and green. So grab that one, put that in FG. Do that up. Not too tight, you don't want to break anything, but just tight enough so that it's not going to move. So there you go, so you've got your 240 volt wiring, so that goes in the cab, and then that'll plug into the power board as well, which is also in the cab as well, so that goes in there. So that is your 240 volt wiring basically. Yeah, that's basically it. That's how I do them. It's very easy, it's very plug and play. The parts are easy to get, and you're not going to have any problems. Plus, if something happens and you need to take the power supply out or the step down or anything, you just unplug it from the board and that's it. Board also has a a circuit breaker in it, which is also handy in case something goes wrong with your power supply or a step down, or something goes wrong. It will set that off, and then you can reset it when you've found the problem. So that's basically the 240 volt wiring that I do for a cab. I try to do as much stuff outside the cab, that way it's just bolting it straight in and I don't have to be fiddling around getting in and out of a cab. So there you go, guys, that's the 240 volt wiring. I will have obviously more subjects on this because we have to actually put it all in the cab, which I will show you, and there's other bits and pieces that we have to do as well. But that's the 240 volt wiring with the power supply, step down, power board, bracket to hold it in, and then goes into the wall to actually get your power. So that's it, guys.